So I've already been slinging for about a minute, and I've checked it. My wet bulb is cooling down, and I'm going to check it again. And what I want to do is I want to capture the reading as it bottoms out and it no longer cools. The wet bulb cools through the process of evaporation, and using the wet bulb and the dry bulb, we'll calculate RH and dew point. We'll calculate fine dead fuel moisture. We'll calculate probability of ignition, and then we'll observe and document the winds. Later on today, we'll start calculating the heat index. We're down south in Texas where we have high humidities and high temperatures, and the heat index becomes a critical issue. Looking at my wet bulb, I've got 80 degrees, dry bulb, 85. I'll sling it for another 15 seconds just to make sure that I'm bottomed out. If I'm not bottomed out, I'll continue to sling until I am bottomed out on my wet bulb. My dry bulb should remain the same. Again, having good shade is the most important aspect of taking good weather. If you're not in good shade, you're not getting good weather. $80 wet bulb, 85 dry. I remember those two numbers. I've got my spot weather forecast. I'm going to put my weather observations on the back. The time now is, I'm not really sure. I think I left my phone in the... The time now is 09:45. I had a dry bulb of 85. I had a wet bulb of 80. We're at an elevation of less than 500 feet. So I come to my 0 to 500 feet elevation. I come down to 80 dry bulb. I cross it. Correction. I come down to dry bulb of 85 and cross it with 80, and I get a dew point of 78 and an RH of 80. 78 dew point, 80% relative humidity. Now I move over to get my calculated fine dead fuel moisture. I get my reference fuel moisture using my relative humidity of 80 and drop down to a dry bulb of 85, and that gives me a reference fuel of 10. Scratch that in a little note because I'll have to add it to my next number. I come down to my corrections and I have to find the correct month. We're in the month of August. It's August 14th today. I come to the time between 0800 and 1000. I'm going to use an east aspect because of the morning, and I'm just going to use the basically worst case scenario. So later in the day I would use south, and later in the day I would use west. We're on a flat aspect. We're level with our burn, and so the correction is 4. So 10 plus 4 is 14. So my fine dead fuel moisture is 14%. Now I want to find the probability of ignition. I use my 14% fine dead fuel moisture. I go to unshaded because our fuels are unshaded, not where I took weather. Our fuels are unshaded. And I drop down to our temperature of 85, and I get 20 probability of ignition. Document 20 on my pig. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn to my heat index chart, which I have here. Right here it is. using my relative humidity of 80 and my dry bulb temperature of 85. It's somewhere between 94 and 100. I'll go ahead and split the difference and we'll call it a heat index of 97. 97 degrees is my heat index. And now I'll go ahead and report the weather. All units on the Bull Trap prescribed fire, please stand by for 0945 weather. I'm pausing to allow people to pick up their notebooks and document the weather. At 0945, dry bulb 85 degrees, relative humidity 80%, fine dead fuel moisture 14%, probability of ignition 20, 97 degrees heat index. Again, 85 dry, 80% relative humidity.
Birdmaster, any copies?
When I read weather, I believe it's important to consistently read the weather the same way so that everybody listening to the weather can become accustomed to the way I read it and they can document it the same way. That's all. Thank you.